When you think about the great rulers of history, their tomb is supposed to be the final word, right? A permanent statement of their power and legacy. But for one of the Ottoman Empire's greatest rulers, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, that final statement isn't a statement at all. It's a giant question mark. And from a historian's point of view, this isn't just about a misplaced grave. It's an incredible story of how an empire holds itself together in its most fragile moment.
So let's just get right to the heart of the puzzle. How on earth can one man, one of the most powerful men of his time, have two separate tombs, hundreds and hundreds of miles apart? It sounds impossible, right? And that's exactly why this has been such an enduring royal mystery for centuries. For almost 500 years, this question was the stuff of legend. But then, in 2015, everything changed. A team of archaeologists digging around in southern Hungary made a discovery that sent a jolt through the entire historical community. They were pretty sure they had finally found the key to the whole thing. Now, what they found wasn't just some random ruin. They believe they uncovered the location of a lost Ottoman settlement called Turbek. And this wasn't just any town. It was a town built for one single sacred purpose, only to be completely wiped off the map later in the 1680s.
Okay, so here are the details, and this is what's so amazing. The team, led by historian Norbert Papp, was digging near Szigetvár, and they pinpointed what they believe is a tomb built on the exact spot where Suleiman's imperial tent stood. But here's the twist. This wasn't a tomb for his body. No, this was a shrine built for his heart and his internal organs. And that little detail is the key to unlocking this whole incredible story.
So, why in the world would you bury a sultan's heart in the middle of Hungary? Well, to answer that, we've got to rewind the clock. We're going back to the 16th century to witness the last dramatic chapter of Suleiman's incredible reign.
It's 1566. Sultan Suleiman is 72 years old, and he's not well. But in a show of pure force of will, he leads his army on one last campaign. And then, right at the climax of the brutal Siege of Szigetvár, literally on the cusp of victory, the unthinkable happens. On September 7th, the Sultan dies. Suddenly, the entire empire is leaderless, in the middle of a war hundreds of miles from home.
This was an absolute crisis. An army's morale, its very will to fight, is tied to its leader. If word got out that Suleiman was dead, the whole campaign would fall apart. And honestly, the empire itself could fracture. What happens next is one of the most brilliant, most audacious deceptions in all of political history. Just let that sink in for a second. The most powerful man in their world is gone, and only a tiny handful of people know it. They are completely surrounded by a massive army whose loyalty depends entirely on that man being alive. The stakes could not possibly be any higher. So, the Grand Vizier, a man named Sokollu Mehmed Pasha, makes a terrifying but brilliant call. He decides to hide the Sultan's death. The short-term goal? Keep the army fighting long enough to win the siege. But the long-term goal was all about the dynasty. He had to buy enough time for Suleiman's heir to secure the throne. 48 days. I mean, just think about that. There's almost 7 weeks. For 7 weeks, an entire army, the imperial court, and all their enemies were led to believe the Sultan was still alive. It was an absolutely incredible feat of political theater. So how did they possibly pull this off? Well, the Grand Vizier's plan was genius. First, they secretly embalmed the Sultan's body right there, inside his tent. To keep up appearances, doctors would still come and go, and they even had a body double mimic the ailing Sultan while forged orders were sent out in his name. This whole charade held together until they finally got word that his son, Selim II, was safely on the throne back in the capital. This really says it all. For 48 days, the massive Ottoman Empire was, in effect, being ruled by a ghost. It's a pretty stark reminder of just how fragile the line between order and chaos can be, especially when it comes to royal succession. And now, that incredible 48-day secret brings us right back to the answer to our mystery. It explains perfectly why there had to be 2 burials, and in the end, 2 tombs for one sultan. And here it is, the solution. It's so elegant, really. See, to get the Sultan's body all the way back to the capital, Constantinople, without it, decomposing, they had to remove his internal organs. His body would get the grand state funeral, laid to rest with his ancestors. But his heart, the very symbol of his spirit, was buried right there, on the ground where he won his very last victory. So this whole thing was born out of 2 crucial needs. You had the practical need, preserve the body for the long trip home, which was absolutely essential for the dynasty's legitimacy. And then you had the symbolic need to honor his death on the battlefield, to literally sanctify the newly conquered land with the essence of the victorious sultan himself.
This dual burial, as strange as it might seem to us, actually fits perfectly into a much bigger Ottoman tradition, because they didn't just bury their rulers, they basically immortalized their entire dynasty in stone.
This is a really important concept. The monumental tomb, called a turbe, wasn't really a religious thing. Its roots go way back to ancient Turkish traditions, and its purpose was political. A big, grand turbe was a public declaration about the power, the permanence, and the everlasting glory of the Ottoman dynasty itself.
And wow, these tombs were spectacular. Just look at this one, the Yeşil Türbe, or Green Tomb. This isn't just a grave, it is a masterpiece of art and architecture, covered in these incredible tiles, all of it designed to scream wealth, culture, and power. The interiors were just as stunning. I mean, look at the tomb of Sem Sultan. These spaces were basically canvases for the best artists in the entire empire. They were physical embodiments of the Ottoman Golden Age, and they were meant to leave you breathless. And these tombs were meant to be seen. The outsides were not subtle. They were imposing, powerful structures designed to completely dominate the landscape. A turbe was a permanent stamp of imperial authority, a message to everyone about who was in charge, even in death. Which brings us right back to Suleiman. It is so fitting that his main tomb in Istanbul, the one that holds his body, was designed by the greatest architect the empire ever produced, the legend himself, Mimar Sinan. It was the ultimate architectural statement for the empire's longest reigning and arguably its greatest soul. So, in the end, the discovery of a lost tomb in a Hungarian field solved a 500-year-old mystery. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As we keep digging into the past, it's just so exciting to think about what other secrets of this incredible empire are still out there, buried under the dirt, just waiting for us to find them.